everyone. Welcome to our Facebook Live. My name is Nikki Wetzel. I am the Director of Communications and Advancement here at Prosperity Connection. And today our Facebook Live, actually in May, we're kind of doing a series about our services here at Prosperity Connection. We know some folks might not fully understand what it means, might be intimidated, might have some anxiety around it. So we really just want to help alleviate that anxiety and help you understand what to expect when you come into these services. So we are starting off with our St. Louis Builds Credit team, Remy and Heather. And today we're going to talk all about our credit report review services, what to expect, what it's going to look like. Hopefully, again, removing that anxiety and encouraging you to come receive one, because these two are wonderful. They know their stuff, and they can really make a difference. So like I said, my name is Nikki, and I'm going to give Remy and Heather a chance to introduce themselves. One quick reminder, this is an open chat, if you will. Like, we certainly have questions that we're going to talk through, but we would love for you to pop questions in the chat as something comes up. So that is open and ready for you if you have any questions. All right, so let's start with intros. So introduce yourselves, a little bit about what you do, and maybe one of your favorite parts about being a financial educator.
Okay, so I am Heather Schindewolf. I am the St. Louis Builds Credit Financial Educator. And I'd say one of my favorite parts of my job is doing what we're talking about today, the credit report reviews. I love sitting down either in Zoom or in person and meeting with people, and in 20 to 30 minutes, it's amazing how much you can learn about someone and how much you can share about credit reports and find out, and give people just a few little steps you could do to make that credit go up.
Yep, awesome.
Awesome. I am Remy Edwards. I'm also an educator when it comes to credit. My favorite thing about our clients is seeing that exhale. Like, you can literally see an exhale when speaking with some of our clients, depending on how much anxiety they already have built up coming into a credit review. Um, it's a lot of the unknown, but it's figuring out. Wait a minute, this is actually manageable, and I can do it. And that's what pleases me the most, to see that action has taken place and that they're excited about the future.
Yeah. And maybe even with some of this, we'll experience an exhale on your end today. Like, oh, it's not intimidating as I thought. This I can definitely do this. Perfect. So let's dive in. So how do I sign up for this credit report review service? What do I have to do to get started?
So, in order we are a very flexible organization. The primary way to sign up is by going to our website, prosperityconnection.org/get started. From there, you have a plethora of decisions to make. You can either sign up for a credit review, coaching, or even our financial education classes. If you just happen by and see me on the streets, then I'll be happy to connect you and get you the resources you need in order to have a credit review.
Love it. And then once I get there and sign up, what all am I going to have to do? Like, what is that actual sign up process? What kind of information am I going to have to give? Stuff like that.
So whenever you click credit review, you're going to put your name, email address, phone number, and there's a few questions just for our statistics and learning, for tracking purposes. And so then we will get an email saying so-and-so signed up for credit report review. So we will send an email back saying, thank you so much for signing up. We're going to send you a credit report authorization form through DocuSign, which is a secured site.
Okay.
Watch for that. We will tell you to watch your junk mail. Make sure you see that. It's just a couple questions about your knowledge as far as credit reports. And so we know whenever we sit down with you, like, hey, you look at your credit score every day, or you haven't seen it in a while. So we kind of know where to start.
Okay.
And once you complete that DocuSign, we will reach out with a Calendly link, and you can choose either in person in our office on 1310 Papin Street, or you can choose a Zoom appointment.
Sweet, so I can see you in person and virtual.
Absolutely. And I do want to also remind you guys, this is definitely a secure process. So I know we're asking for your personal information. Please give us all your correct information, name, birthday, address, social security number, because like I said, it goes nowhere else but between us. So please feel free to, I guess, release some anxiety from that as well.
Yeah. And from what I understand, DocuSign is one of the most popular, common, most trusted, and most used platforms. I know personally, like when I was working on closing on my house, a lot of our papers that we had to sign and stuff was through DocuSign. Lenders use it, so it's very, very widely used and very secure. And like Remy said, only between us. That is never ever shared anywhere.
So if you're not comfortable doing that, you can come in person. We'll have a paper form for you to sign. And I've done this before. You put your social down for me. I'll put it in, pull your credit report, and then you can see me shred it. Yeah. So there's one, but DocuSign is here. Yeah, perfect.
Okay, now that I've signed up, now that I know that I can meet you, in person or via Zoom, what does the actual appointment look like? What am I getting? What am I learning during this credit report review?
So I would definitely say you're getting a full service conversation, really, because we're not only focused on what your credit report says, but we're actually focused on the person because life happens, right? So we want to make sure that we get the full scope of what's going on, and then after we have that conversation, then we come up with some type of strategy or some type of goal setting in order to get you on your way as far as building your credit is concerned. Also, with that process, as Heather mentioned, we give you a copy of your credit report along with an action plan. So the action plan won't be anything new. It'll be just what we discussed, just to keep it in your face, to know what we discussed and how to move forward.
And you do get your Equifax. We pull Equifax version 8, and you also get your FICO score.
Okay, awesome. I think emphasizing the FICO score is really important. I don't think anywhere else you can get any other credit, like pulling your credit report from annualcreditreport.com. You cannot get your FICO score without paying for it. You have to pay for it. And I know you can go to like myfico.com, but again, you have to pay for it. So I guess that kind of leads to a natural question that I was going to save for later, but since it kind of came up, does this cost anything?
Absolutely.
So, and will it hurt my credit? You just talked about pulling my credit report and that I get my credit score. So is that going to show up and is that going to hurt me?
It's a soft pull.
Okay, yeah, perfect. So no hurt to your credit, no cost. I mean, how could it get any better? So you talked about, you give strategies and an action plan. What if I'm terrified of the action plan or unsure how to go about taking those steps? Is there any additional support for me?
Yes, we actually have our coaching services that can hold your hand through the process. If you need to call creditors, if you need assistance with building a spending plan, we also have our financial education classes as well that gives you the high level understanding of the services that we not only just offer, but also how to take those steps towards building your credit. So we have many different avenues, to choose from.
I will say also, if you leave us, you're done with your credit report review, you're feeling confident, we reach out in 2 months and just say, how are you doing? Is everything going okay? Do you have any questions? And then we reach out again in 6 months saying, do you want us to do another pull? We'll get your FICO, Equifax version 8. It's always good to follow the same credit score that you've done in the past. And so we'll see, hey, what kind of steps have you taken? Do you need any other assistance? And since we talked in 6 months, because that's usually how long it takes.
Yeah.
Has your score gone up a little bit? Has it gone down? What does it look like?
Okay.
So yeah, if you don't want to go into coaching, we won't leave you hanging with all this information. We'll follow.
Absolutely. And you have our, when we send you emails, our person emails, we stay connected. It's not necessarily one and done.
And I love questions. I'll get text or email saying, what kind of travel card should I get? Yes. I just tell people it's overwhelming. There's so many different products out there, even for like credit builder loans or secured credit cards. If you see a couple and you're not sure, reach out. I'll help you do the research.
It's fun.
Yeah, that's what we do here.
Before I move on to the next question, I see that we have a few viewers, so I just want to remind folks that we would love questions. If you have any questions specifically for Remy or Heather, or any questions about our credit report review services, anything we haven't talked about so far, please feel free to pop those in the comments before we move on. Awesome. All right, so I can imagine that as folks like think about this service, there are some things that might hold folks back, make them either afraid or feel like they're not ready for this service. So what are some things that you've heard from folks, maybe why they don't feel like they're ready for a credit report review or something like that, and how have you responded?
Can we take this one?
Okay.
So I feel like I get two extremes, like either my credit is terrible, I'm not ready yet, let me work on some things first. I feel like reach out to us. This is why we're here.
Absolutely.
You know, we've seen it all.
Truly.
We've done it all. You know,
Yeah.
you know, you've got a plan. Reach out and just make sure, because maybe there's something that we can tell you that you're doing, or just, you know, a little bit of support, like, hey, you know exactly what's going on, good job, check back with us, keep doing what you're doing. Or I get the other extreme, my credit's good, I don't need help. It's always good to pull your credit report. You never know if there's gonna be something on there that isn't yours, if you've got some funky addresses that show up, there could be collections that are showing up that you had no idea. Even if you have an 800, 850 credit score, it's still good to pull that credit and see what's on there.
And I mean, even if you've got good credit, I can imagine like there are still things that we naturally want to do in life, and you know, seeking opinions and seeking suggestions to make sure that the impact to our credit is minimal, I feel like is always a good idea. The credit, like, let's be clear, I thought of this earlier and then it went out of my head. Like, our credit system is complicated. It is convoluted and it is confusing, and in my opinion, that's on purpose. And so, like, you should not ever feel bad if you feel like you don't know something or are confused by something. Like, it is not set up for us to succeed, and that's what these two wonderful humans are here to do, is to help you like figure out the system and kind of beat the game, or at least be able to play along, because it's not meant to be that way.
People feel their credit should be A1. I remember having a client who felt like their credit, they could have had an 850, but they didn't have anything in their credit because they misunderstood the process. So they were paying all of their utility bills, but utility bills don't show up on the credit report unless you default. So that's just some type of information that you would get not only from our credit education classes, but also just by coming in and pulling your report, if there's one available.
Yeah. Explain what you mean there, if there's one available.
So if you don't have credit, or you haven't applied for credit, or like full credit on you potentially won't have an actual report out there. So there are also steps that we can take in order to start credit or start positive trail lines on your credit report.
Cool.
I've met with a lot of people in classes that are like, oh, I don't need credit, I don't need to use credit. It's always good to have a credit score, a higher credit score the better, because we're running into problems now with people who are renting, rents going up, they can't afford to live in a place, so they have to go somewhere else, and landlords are now doing soft pulls. You have to have 650, 680, and people are running into the, I've never had a credit score before, or if I do, it's low, and we've been seeing that a lot. It's all of a sudden, oh my gosh, I need to get this up, and it's better to work on this because it takes a long time.
Yes.
It doesn't take long for it to drop, but it takes a long time to turn that.
I think that's a really good point. Unfortunately, we're just entering into an era, if you will, that I don't think is going to go away, where credit literally impacts pretty much every single area of our lives, and touches and influences every single area of our life. Is going to continue to get harder and harder, if not impossible, to live in our system, live in our economy without a credit score.
Absolutely.
So an unfortunate reality, maybe may not seem fair, may not be fair, but it's just kind of how it's going. I did see a question come in So I'm an authorized user on my parents' credit card still. Would getting off of that hurt my credit, or would it hurt theirs, or what would happen?
So it depends on what is going on with their credit card. So I've had somebody, she was trying to buy a house, she wanted to improve her credit score.
Yep.
So she her grandma put her on her credit card. Well, grandma's credit was maxed out, so it was really hurting her.
Okay.
She didn't realize that, grandma didn't realize that. So it just depends, as long as your parents have that utilization under 30% or lower on their credit cards, make their payments on time, then it's not helping them at all. It really doesn't matter as long as you're not having a spending spree or anything. So it's fine, but as they're using their credit cards, that's good for you. Best thing to do, come see us, have us pull your credit report, and we can tell you whether this is, because it's gonna have a hard conversation with your parents.
Yeah.
Hey, mom, dad, the payments on time. How much is your credit limit? How much is your balance? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So you
Yeah.
can actually, since your name is on there, we can pull it, see what it looks like, and then give you our advice on what to do.
Now, if that's the only piece of credit that you have, I think piece of credit, only only form of credit that you have,
Yeah.
and you pull yourself away from it, then yes, it can potentially hurt your credit because you don't have any.
Yeah.
So you gotta, like I said, if you need some help or some guidance with that, we can definitely help you with that.
I know we kind of like segued in and out, but Remy, did you have anything that you wanted to add to maybe some reasons that you've heard from potential clients or current clients about why they might not want to do this or might not be ready to respond?
I think it's just repetitively just the fear of being judged.
Yeah.
And this is a judgment-free zone. Again, like I told you guys before, we don't just look at the numbers. We look at person, and we ask questions. We ask qualified questions to see where they are financially, see where they are mentally, and how much they can handle when doing an actual review. But I do want to remind you guys, it's no reason to fear what we're going to talk about, because we're always having your interest first.
Yeah.
So we're going to make sure that it's going to be a pleasant conversation. I always tell people, even the lowest score, it's going to be good because you're going to shoot it right up. Any little bitty thing you do to your credit, it's going to boost it up. So
And those scores aren't set in stone.
exactly.
That was one of the, I remember just thinking about the system is broken and like we don't learn this kind of stuff. I remember one of the very first things that I realized that I had thought for a lot of my life that was wrong was that our credit score was like not permanent, but I thought that you started like perfect and every bad thing you did decreased it and there was no increase. I have no idea why I thought that. I don't know that anybody ever told me that. I have no idea where I came up with that, but that was one of the first things that I remember debunking.
I'm laughing. I was thinking about this morning, thinking about, talking, and I'm like, I always thought that it was only your credit card payment, like your payment.
Yep.
I never made a late payment. So I always thought that meant I had good credit.
Yeah.
On the side, I'm open charge. This was boom, 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 boom.
And what's going on?
Amazing, because I've never made a late payment, but there's a lot more
So many things.
than that.
So we often associate credit report as to a report card. Now,
Yeah.
if you
Yeah.
have that same analogy with school, they say, well, you start off with an A, and everything you do, or since the assignment is then it goes down. It's a lot different with the actual credit report.
Yeah.
Right.
And I hope this is just an example, kind of to Remy's point about this being a judgment-free zone. Like they both mentioned this earlier. We've been there. Yeah, we might still be there in a lot of ways. So we're always still learning. Like we have made mistakes after mistakes with our credit reports and our credit cards. So
It's nice to make a joke too, because it's like.
Oh goodness. Okay. So I mean, talking about having been there, let's let's close up the last 5 to 6 minutes about some testimonials or success stories. I think it would be kind of interesting if we talked personally about things that you've learned and done to improve, and then maybe if you have a couple examples of some really great client successes. Let's talk through that.
So
I was just thinking, there was a young woman, I came into work last week and there was a thank you card and a little gift on my desk. I wasn't here when she came in, but she reached out to Prosperity Connection. I did a credit report review with her in person. She was wanting to buy a house. So then she went on to coaching, worked with the coach, I'm not sure how long, and just ended up buying her first house. So she reached out to the coach and said thank you. She brought me a thank you card, and it's like, oh my gosh, I was part of that process, which is really cool, and it's a good feeling.
Yep.
That, I made an impact on just that, like I said, 20 to 30 minutes makes such a big difference sometimes.
Yeah, absolutely.
So, almost a year ago, yeah, I'm coming up on my year anniversary. Almost a year. I I wanted to. I was curious about my credit. But I was so nervous. Listen, so nervous, and I ended up choosing one of the director of coaching to actually pull my credit. So I was even more nervous. And literally, it was so funny because he told me, he said, you know what? He said, you're probably fine. Take some Excel. You'll be okay. He said the good thing is that we're here and we can tackle it. And also, most people that think that they're fine probably need some work, and people that think they, are really in the hole, then they're probably fine. So, so it was just that opportunity to not only be able to say that I'm a financial educator, but also that I'm a client, and that I know what it feels like, to have anxiety, to worry about others' opinions of me about my credit, and then just to look at it. Sometimes it's just that just look at the report because you may know some things that are on it, but go ahead, bite the mouth guard and fix it and work on it. Because guess what? It's not going to move unless you put some action behind it.
Yeah. Yeah, I remember when I started, so let's see, I'm coming up on 4 years almost. And I started, if you've been with us, you know this. And Bernadette, I just want to let you know, I do see your question. I'm going to get to it in just right after this. When I started as a coach, and one of the first things that you do when you start is they pull your credit report and kind of walk you through it. And I just remember like the flood of information that I received. As we just talked about, I thought that your score started, and I think that I had figured that out before I started here. Like I figured that out probably in my late 20s, but there was so much that I didn't know and didn't understand. Thinking that payments were one of the only things that affected that was definitely where I was. I had no idea about the 5 pieces that really affect your credit score, and learned so much about like how collections work. I definitely thought that paying on time for utilities helped me out and showed up on my credit report, and learning that it didn't was eye-opening for me. So I was a super irresponsible 20-year-old. I opened every store credit card you could possibly imagine, maxed them out, didn't miss payments all the time, but definitely had several missed payments that, by the way, I am still paying for because they stay on your credit report for 7 years. I'm getting really close to my last ones falling off, but right, like very exciting. But like I look back and I'm like, man, I could have used Prosperity Connection in my mid-20s, someone to be like, hey, stop doing this. So starting work here like literally changed my whole financial life.
I started out with you
Yes.
as my coach, and I sat down with Nikki, and you pulled my credit for the first time. So I know what that anxiety feels like. Like, oh my gosh, she's gonna see everything that I've done, and it was literally 14 or 15 pages because I would open up, I'd pay them off,
Yeah.
and then I'd open up another just to get that discount. And you're like, okay, well, and you talked about older trade lines and establishing that history, and it's like, oh, I didn't know.
I remember after our very first meeting, you told me that like maybe it was in a review you wrote for the class, or maybe it was just an email to me. You said like one of the single biggest things was the utilization piece, and like what a light bulb moment that was for you.
Just by making like simple little changes.
It was wild. Yeah, it was wild.
Like, I'm gonna do what you do. Like, this is amazing, and I'm gonna teach people, and I know what it's now sitting down like, You know, people be like, oh my gosh, you know, it's gonna be terrible. It's not. It's not gonna be terrible. No matter what is on there, we'll fix it.
Yeah.
We'll work on it.
Yeah. How long after you and I started, that you and I met, did this job open up? Wasn't very long, was it? 8 months? Okay. Yep, and now here's me. I love it. I love it. Yeah.
Please, 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 don't take the easy way out. Don't try to get a loan to cover all your debt. You know, because then that's adding on more debt. You know, and it may seem like it's freeing up debt, but then you're gonna have debt on debt because you're gonna end up using those cards again.
Yeah.
So do yourself a favor and come to Prosperity Connection.
Yeah.
We give you the right way to do
It's a good segue to Bernadette's question, I think, and then remind me that I want to say one other thing about that. So Bernadette asked if it's possible to live debt-free and still have a good credit score at the same time. And the very quick answer is yes. Do you guys want to walk through?
So what we tell people as far as credit cards, because that's going to give you your oldest trade lines. Put something on there like Netflix or Spotify, so you know it's only going to be $15 a month. Pay it, and that way you've got that little bit of utilization. You're still using your credit card, so they're going to keep it open. And that trade line for that credit card is just going to keep getting older. It's going to help you.
Yeah, I think that's perfect.
Yeah,
Like,
just keep your credit cards, and they're like, oh no.
yes.
But
Yeah.
they're actually are what helps you establish credit. Whenever you open up like a car note or a personal loan, it's going to close eventually. You want those revolving trade lines that are going to stay open and give you that long oldest trade line. And it's going to give you that positive history that you need.
Yep. But great question. So yes, like, you know, a good credit score does not require being in debt. I know that there are some folks in the finance industry that want to make it seem like having a credit card or getting a loan, it automatically equals bad thing and automatically equals debt, and it does not have to. Like, we don't want you to have to carry a balance on your credit card, but like Heather said, you know, something small that you can pay off easily every month. It's amazing how much that can help.
Yeah.
So I hope that answered your question, Bernadette. And I want to go back to what you were talking about, Remy, about like the easy way out. I wouldn't qualify this as easy because they end up charging you out the wazoo. But one of the things that I want to talk about are credit repair companies. So one of the most popular being Lexington Law that you've probably heard of. We could probably do a whole Facebook Live about that topic, but the short of it is they are charging you money to do the things that you can do and that you can get help with for free. And I personally had a client when I was a coach who was paying Lexington Law over $400 a month before she started working with me. And when you think about how much debt could be paid down, how many collections could be paid off, how many charge-offs could be taken care of with that $400 a month, like, it's just, and they're doing things like I said, that you can learn how to do yourself, that we would love to and be happy to teach you, but also they're not being super honest about it. Again, I don't want to go too far into the weeds, but for example, they might file a dispute letter on your behalf. And then while that's being disputed, the credit bureaus remove it from your report while they're investigating the dispute. So then you're told, hey, we got this removed from your credit report. It will likely come back on if that dispute is not resolved. So it's not always a permanent solution. So thinking, like, I know it's not the easy way out because they are charging you money, but it's not a great way out. So I would it's quick fixes, people that promise that they can boost your credit score 100 points in 3 months. Like, if it sounds too good to be true, I promise it is. And again, we don't charge for our services. We are, very highly trained here. So I would just caution folks against anything that you see labeled as a credit repair clinic, a credit repair service. We try not to use the word repair here because of that. So if you see the word repair out, I would be a little hesitant. So I just wanted to do that. We are at time. I don't think I see any other questions, but I want to give folks just a few more seconds. If you have another question, to pop it in the chat. Any last things that you want to say, encourage, remind folks, anything at all?
Honestly, can't afford it, don't charge.
Don't say you don't have.
Yeah, and I mean, yes, and I reckon like people, there are oftentimes circumstances that might feel like that's unavoidable, but that's just one more reason to come to us and ask and seek that advice. Like there might be products or ideas or a solution out there that you may not know of, and that is completely okay. But these folks can help you.
I'll say one quick thing. We've seen Credit Karma.
Mm.
Credit Karma is free, but there's all these different services. Like, you know, hey, you want to boost your credit? Take out this credit card. Take out this credit card. Take out this loan. Don't do that.
Yes.
Yep. That's something that we've been seeing a lot more is credit card these things for like, yeah. And
You know what? No, thank you. I'm
Yeah.
good.
Yeah. And I know one thing, sorry, we keep going, but one thing I think of is I got a lot of questions about this Experian booth that I'm seeing a lot about, and where they can help get your on-time utility payments and stuff to help boost your score. But I mean, even if that does work and does help, it's only helping your experience, like helping with Experian, and not all lenders use Experian. Like there's so many caveats to that, so it's not harmful, but it's also just another thing to be aware of that might not be as good as it seems, if you will. So
there's so
many.
and it's so confusing, and that's why we're here.
Yeah.
We're here to help.
Yeah. So I hope this was helpful. Thank you for the questions in the chat. If this is going to live on the event page, it'll also eventually be on our YouTube channel if you want to come back and refer to it. I'm going to plug one last time what Remy said. If you go to prosperityconnection.org, there's a big button in the top right corner that says Get Started, and that's where you can sign up for these incredible services. So thank you for joining, and we will see you again in a couple weeks.